And how did you go this week? Were you able to do any practice? Yes, Mary.
Well, I meditated every day, which was great. And
Yay! Did you do your 3 minutes?
I
Was
did
it
5 minutes.
well done?
And
Fantastic.
but I noticed that like I have a lot of like thoughts in my mind. And I noticed that even I was saying to myself, breathing in, breathing out, then one, I was still, even though I was able to do that and count, I was still carrying on like a monologue. All these thoughts were slipping in, so I just felt like I just had to constantly go back to one. Like I couldn't even get to two or three. It was so I don't know if there's a cure for that, if it's just I had to practice more or what.
I mean, you can, it depends how sensitive you are to what thoughts are in your mind. Like, I know for myself, it's very hard for me to get past two or three most of the time. But maybe if after you've done some settling meditation, the mind is a little quieter, like, you just go through the breath and relax the body and do some concentration meditation for a little bit and then try the counting. It does take practice and it's not easy. And also too, it can be a little frustrating because it just shows you where you're at, and that can be somewhat disheartening. So,
Hmm.
um, but we are going to look at thoughts today. So it's great that you brought it up because that's in fact what we are. That's the next step.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Gabe, hi. Where are you gone? I mean, everyone's moving around. It's like, whoo.
Uh, I I kept up my meditation practice daily in the evening, about 20
Mhm.
minutes usually, but that doesn't mean that I'm getting any more than maybe a minute at a time of actually like real mindfulness. Um, Throughout, like it comes and goes. I've gotten more mindful of like it's almost like distant thoughts, like distant images, distant like I'm think like just I don't know, I might like just have like a memory, but I wouldn't have even perceived it being there before. But I'm now like just more aware of how active my mind can be while I'm trying to just be. And I didn't really do any concentration. I pretty much did mindfulness all week and just relaxed and took it easy. But on Monday, I know I plan to be a little bit more disciplined and do a box breathing when I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes with my Monday night group. And there's a clock in there and it ticks. And I'll just do the inhale 4 ticks, hold 4 ticks, exhale 4 ticks, hold for 4 ticks. And just like do that for the entire 20 minutes. So it's more of like a discipline than just like, kind of like the escape from reality, more like just digging in and like, really like focusing. Yeah.
Okay, well done. You guys did really well. I mean, this other group that's been running almost simultaneously, they weren't all doing that. So I'm kind of impressed that you bothered. Um, and I think, Gabe, and maybe this is what's happening with you, Mary, as well, is that once you start to settle the body and you start to focus and you start to meditate, you actually do get a little bit of a more of an in-depth view about what is actually there in your mind, and you start to see it more. You start to see more images, you start to see more, have more memories, you start to see exactly what your mind stream is doing. And it's very, very busy. So a lot of the time we're quite unconscious. So I think what's happening with the meditation, once you start practicing meditation, there comes a point where you start to see, wow, there's a lot going on in there. So this is, I guess, why, the Vipassana courses are 10 days long, because it probably takes about that amount of time, and plus with regular practice to sort of start to calm down the mind. And I also think too, don't get too worried about what you're seeing. It's like I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think I would rejoice actually that you're actually seeing what's there. Gabe, did you want to say something else or did you just?
Yeah, it's that when I'm like really, really focused, like really counting breaths, there's like 8, 7, 6 or box breathing or just really like or like focusing on 3 inhales and focusing on 3 exhales. When my mind is really occupied with counting and like timing and exactly what's going on in my body, I tend to like, it's almost like my mind outside of that focus is quieter than when I'm just doing baseline, simple mindfulness, just kind of watching the breath without controlling it, trying to let go and observe it. It's like my mind gets more interference, not interference, but like, more activity outside of my meditation because I'm just not occupied. Seems like that's something.
So you don't notice your mind as much when you're not meditating. Is that what you're saying?
No, oh shoot.
We lost you for a minute.
Yeah, I'm trying to get
You're still there.
all right. No, it's when I'm really, really focused, like doing a concentration meditation, then that's like my mind is like not as many images, not as many random words. Whereas if I'm just doing mindfulness, well, that's how it's broken apart in recovery dharma, like concentration meditation and mindfulness meditation. So we might be talking like different languages here. So like concentration meditation being like holding an object in your mind or focusing on a meditation object or like really counting and like observing, like just concentrating. Whereas mindfulness and recovery dharma is considered more just the letting go and letting be. And like it can be things like body scans, but it could also just be when you're just really relaxing to when your breath can get really, really slow and you're not controlling it anymore. And you're like observing it almost like in third party. That'd be like more mindfulness. That's what I mean.
It's a different definition here. Yeah. Okay. Um, so you're saying, I just want to get back to what you're actually saying. Your mind is you're more aware of what's going on in your mind when you're focusing. Is that correct?
No, it's like when I'm focusing, my mind is active already, so I'm not getting as much random stuff in my mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's how it should be. Exactly how it should be. That's perfect.
Sorry to take up so much time.
No, 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 that's all right. It's because we have two different definitions of what mindfulness is. Okay. Jacinda, sorry, it's windy and rainy here. Jacinda, how were things for you this week?
It was a good week. I did just like I just dedicated the 3 minutes in the morning
Well
and
done.
I feel like I did more than that some of the days,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think just having that small commitment was uh really helpful. And I did I like I have, or like these oracle cards. So I did like some just like with focusing on um like a like courage, or just kind of had like a something. So I was like breathing in courage and like that. So I
So
did
you had a
that.
theme each day, a different
A,
theme
a
based
theme,
on what
yeah.
card you pulled.
Yeah, yeah. I
Right.
guess I like themes.
Yeah. Huh?
I think I like themes, so
Yeah. Kind of like the
yeah,
theme for the day. I mean,
yeah.
excuse me. It it can be actually quite helpful to pull a card and then just think about
Yeah.
that particular thing for the day. That
Mhm.
sounds nice. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And Bay and Urs, anything to you want to report or not?
I don't know. I mean, I did some meditation this week, of course, and I mean, sometimes the mind gets, carried away to something, and that's one of the problems. And then sometimes you get drowsy. I mean, it depends on the time of the day. Sometimes your body's not really active enough, and then if you sit still, you kind of fall asleep almost. Uh, the other thing is sometimes I wonder how much control do you want to exert on the mind? Because if you're too hard, if you're you can, of course, with an iron fist, you can keep your mindfulness upright. But I'm not sure if long term that's kind of too hard. I mean, you probably have to be a bit relaxed and not exercise too much control.
I think, sorry,
Yeah.
you're right there. I mean, and didn't Buddha himself talk about not having the bow too tight or too loose? And I think that's exactly what you're probably talking about. And you have to also know where you're at on any particular day. Like you said, some days depending on the time of day, you're meditating, and some days can be a little bit more challenging than others. So maybe on those days, they are not the days to start trying to reel your mind in. Maybe those are the days where you just relax a little bit. And the days where you're feeling a little bit more alert or a little bit more maybe less tired or less busy with other things can be a time where you can maybe focus more. But I think it sounds like you're experienced enough to figure out what is going to work best for you. But I think it's just always to keep that such a beautiful image, not too slack and not too tight.
Right.
Because if you know what happens if you play a violin when the strings are too tight, they break. So that's why his Buddha used that example. Yeah. And if they're too slack, it just sounds completely out of tune. It won't play at all. Okay. Bay, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Nothing in particular. I think my mind is just too busy.
I know. I mean, you have a busy life, right? You've got children and you have
Yeah.
family and to take care of. And are you the chief person that does the cooking and everything? Are you the main chef in your house?
Yeah, but I mean,
A lot of work.
mostly SPC work actually.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay. So then because you've got and you also teach yoga, you have a
Right now I'm not teaching. It's mostly dedicating most of my time outside family with SPC work. So it's a
so
lot, a
it's
lot of activities. Yeah.
okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I rejoice that there is so much activity, but I do understand how busy it can get at a Dharma center. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it's probably even more important for you to make sure you're taking care of yourself, that you're getting enough sleep, that you're getting enough exercise, and that you don't have to answer every email immediately. And maybe 3 minutes of meditation in the morning would be helpful. I know what it's like. You just wake up in the morning and there's all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. And do you pick up your phone and look at your emails when you wake up? You do.
I do. It's terrible habit.
Oh, you put your phone,
No.
is that your
Yeah.
phone I see over there next to your bed? No, I
I have my phone in the
can I
bedroom.
suggest, because my chiropractor, whose property I'm living on, she's like, you should keep all your electronic equipment away from you when you're sleeping. And lately, of course, I've been keeping my phone. I was quite good for a while, and I had an analog alarm clock. But lately, the alarm clock didn't last very long. So then I brought the phone back to the bed. And this morning, I know I picked it up and I started checking emails. It was like 6:30 in the morning. And I'm like, Katie, this is not the way to go. Well, because we had this big practice for Venerable Rabino today. So I was already wanting to keep on top of what was happening. But I do know that it's not great. And when I was working at Liberation Prison Project, I remember I would check my emails and make notes while I was eating breakfast. It's also not a great thing to be doing, but we were so busy, I couldn't figure out how to carve out some space for myself. Yeah, and it went on like that for years till eventually I didn't want to do anything at all. So you have to be careful. All right. So today we're working with thoughts. And where did my thoughts go? Here. So let's just settle into a nice, comfortable seated posture. And our internet has been a little bit dodgy. I'm going to keep my phone next to my side. If by any chance I freeze or you lose me, can you send me a message so I don't just keep talking and no one hears me? It's all the rain, I think, is impacting us. All right. So settle into a nice, comfortable seated posture and have your feet about hips width apart. They can be flat on the floor. And just really feel all the sensations and the weight, the soles of the feet, the side of the foot, the big toe mound, the little toe mound. And align your shoulders with your hips and your ears with your shoulders. You feel the weight of your hands in your lap. You can have them just resting comfortably in your lap or in the regular meditation mudra. I quite like this with the thumbs touching, right hand nestled in the left. There seems to be, Lama Zopa Rinpoche would talk about this mudra activating the bodhicitta channel. And unfortunately, for years, I was like, what does he mean? And I never asked him. So I kind of regret not asking about that because I really don't know. But it might be that there's some connection in the thumbs, some kind of like meridian that might kind of go through into the heart. It does kind of feel like you're generating a kind of a ball of energy around this area. So my suggestion would be that this kind of sitting in this mudra is helpful for focusing and concentration. And so, of course, in yoga, they have different mudras. But you'll also see similar mudras in some of the Indian deities as well. So okay, first of all, just imagine your spine as a beautiful string of pearls of light that stretches from the base and just moves all the way up through the crown of the head and beyond. And just imagine you're lengthening your spine, putting some space in between the vertebrae. Go to the crown of the head and relax your scalp. Release any tension there, and maybe you can feel some sensation there. Relax the forehead and the eyebrows, the eyes, the back of the eyes, the nose, and the cheeks, the area around your mouth, the jaw, the back of the head, the neck. Allow your shoulders and shoulder blades to drop down. Relax the throat and the chest and the belly and all of your limbs. And just bring your attention to the sensations of the breath. So as you're breathing in and out of the nostrils, the air is slightly cooler. As you inhale, slightly warmer as you exhale. So you may notice the sensations as you inhale and exhale at the base of the nose. So just try that for a moment, focusing your attention on the base of the nose as you inhale and exhale. And you'll probably feel more sensation there once you send your mind there. And you can alternate. You can maybe focus on the tip of the nose or the side of the nostrils. You may even feel the air flowing in over these tiny little hairs we have in our nose, in our nostrils. Then be aware of your chest cavity. So this is a big part of our breathing apparatus is here. As you inhale, the diaphragm drops down. As you exhale, the diaphragm rises up, just assisting you, pushing all of the air, the stale air out of your body, ready for the next inhalation. So your intercostals, your ribs, all the muscles around your back are assisting you to breathe So feel of that this kind of band all around the body. It's like a 360-degree balloon inside, two balloons inside you, expanding and contracting. And of course the chest. So just be aware when you're breathing, are you lifting up your shoulders as you inhale? So maybe try, rather than lifting up the shoulders, expanding the rib cage. So try taking a nice deep breath rather than lifting up the shoulders, expand the rib cage. And see if you notice any sensation in the back body. And then notice the rising and the falling of the belly. So now draw your attention to any sensory information in your environment. So this can be sound, any olfactory smells. But try not to investigate this sensory information with your mind. Just allow it to be there. Of course, the one proviso is if there's an emergency. And then start to track your mind. Just be aware of what's arising in the mind. And I kind of feel that perhaps at the beginning of the course, we have kind of less awareness of what, we might be thinking, what habits we have mentally. As we start to meditate, as we start to draw attention to our mind, we become more aware of what's there. So it's not that your mind has got busier, it's just you've increased your awareness. And that's a great thing, because you can only work with what you can see. You can't work with things that you don't know about. And sometimes these patterns, or habitual thinking patterns, can be spotted by, if you're in therapy at all, had any therapy, or you have a good friend you like to talk to about things. Someone who's a little bit more objective might see things. So that after a while, if you're doing this practice of looking at your own mind with curiosity, with in a non-judgmental fashion, with like a scientist might be looking at an experiment, you're kind of becoming your own therapist there. Or just observing what's there. And that's fantastic. So don't be surprised if you start to see more things. So let's bring to mind, before we start, I love this little practice of developing compassion, developing bodhicitta. And it's this section of the Lam Rim is almost towards the end. It's considered a really advanced practice. And I have to say, it is quite difficult. So bring to mind your loved ones, these people that you really adore, you have profound relationships with, they're in your life, you take care of each other. So bring them to mind, and then bring to mind all the strangers around you, all the people you pass on the freeway, all the maybe there's kind of a semi-stranger that you see at the store regularly or at your public transport, or you know, it's kind of a neighbor that you don't really know. And then you have people in your life who you don't really like. They could be people that actually you have contact with. They could be people on the media. They could be politicians. And regardless of whether they've done anything or not, the only person your aversion has somehow affected is you. So it's good also to remember that these relationships are interchangeable. Due to karma, due to impermanence, we change our minds. So do other people. So these relationships can also change. So regardless of how you feel about any one particular person at any one particular time, they are just the same as you and me, and that they're all equal. They all have this wish to be happy, this wish to be free from suffering, and having this extraordinary capacity for a Buddha mind. So I just think we'll do this meditation today for the benefit of all these people of our life, and by extension, all sentient beings. And I just wanted to mention there's, these people who died in the plane and helicopter crash in Washington. Then one of the people in our group yesterday mentioned she's a federal worker, and she said things are a little bit crazy where she is, and a lot of insecurity and fear. So I wanted to just think about these people that are managing a lot of life issues right now. So now, thoughts. Working with our thoughts. So some people, there is a perception out there and different definitions of what mindfulness is. But in this particular tradition, mindfulness is not a practice where you stop thinking. And as everybody has mentioned today, through mindfulness and introspection, we actually start to become more aware of the presence of our thoughts. Or, we're aware of the constant flow of our thoughts, but we actually become more aware of the content. And, we're able to also learn to discern between the different types of thought processes, functional thinking that's actually helpful, versus thinking that is dysfunctional and maladaptive, thinking that doesn't really serve you. And functional thinking is probably more like wisdom, helps us to navigate through different life situations, work out how best to proceed, like when we need to figure out the next step of our life. We need to move homes, we're traveling, or even how to figure out the next step in our meditation. And our dysfunctional thinking is a little bit more involuntary and habitual. They're kind of, part of our reactive habits to circumstances in our life. So we might get distressed over a future scenario that's imaginary. Or we might react a certain way to a certain sentence or a certain phrase because it reminds us of something that someone said when we were younger. Certain smells or sounds, particularly for people who have kind of trauma, this can elicit reactivity in the mind. And, this involuntary dysfunctional thinking keeps us very stressed. and you're unable to rest or sleep, you've got your mind's kind of running. And you have this kind of agitation in the mind. It's not a happy state to be in. So you can work with these involuntary thoughts with mindfulness. So when your introspection, say your awareness, detects the arising and the presence of some kind of, I don't know, rumination, compulsive involuntary thinking during your meditation, you can actually, once you've caught it, you can acknowledge the fact that your attention was drawn into such thinking. So in the practice of mindfulness of breathing, the natural out-breath offers us an excellent opportunity to practice letting go, releasing all of the thoughts from our attention in the same way we release carbon dioxide from the lungs. And we can even reinforce this idea by reminding ourselves with this word, release. So when we notice an out-breath, we can just have the out-breath and just go release. And then we return our attention once again to the sensations of the breath. So this way, the cultivation of mindfulness in stabilizing meditation can benefit us, even in the early stages of our practice of mindfulness. We nurture our mindful focus on a specific object of meditation, such as, we did sensations in the body, we did the body scan, and we've done breath sensations in mindfulness of breathing. And then we can practice releasing unnecessary physical tensions and calm mental agitation, especially those due to compulsive involuntary thinking. And it's a really good way to help us reverse the negative effects of chronic stress reactivities and rumination. And a lot of people have it, like the people that in the class yesterday were mostly East Coast New Yorkers living in New York. And they are stressed, man. They have very, very stressful lives there. Busy. So kind of this, this idea of release, this word of release, and it can help our attention, our concentration. And it kind of brings more harmony, I guess, into the mind, to the body. So we're going to do a mindfulness of breathing meditation. And we did this last week. And we're going to go back and do it again. So just settle back into your meditation posture. Just keeping your feet about a hip's width apart if they're not in the cross-legged position. And allow your spine just to be in its natural position. So natural curves, but make sure you're aligned, and you can rest your hands or your arms on your thighs or in the meditation mudra, just to allow your shoulders to be relaxed. And I would invite you to either keep your eyes closed. For me, that's best. I have the least amount of information coming into my brain when my eyes are closed. If you're going to have them open, sometimes if you are feeling like you're falling asleep, you can crack your eyes open slightly and just allow a little bit of light to come in. But if you do that, make sure your eyes are down Imagine you're looking down along the length of the nose. And then also imagine you're kind of in an unfocused gaze. In yoga, they call it a drishti gaze. So return your attention to your body and be in touch with the simple sensations there. Going to the crown of the head and just releasing and relaxing the face, the back of the head, the shoulders, the arms, the body, and all of the limbs. Maybe you can feel sensations in your face, in your hands. So just explore that for a moment. Notice the sensations of the breath. You might feel your heart beating. So can you welcome these easeful, relaxing feelings, comfortable feelings? Can you allow yourself to enjoy them while they are here? You might also notice areas of tension or tightness and some slight discomfort. And can you simply acknowledge them for the time being and don't feel that you need to change it necessarily for the better? Just let these feelings be. Now check in with the sensations at your face. And just notice whether you're tensing up any facial muscles. Around the forehead, around the jaw. Maybe around even the back of the head. Can you gently relax these muscles and let in a different feeling of softness and ease and comfort into our face? And just allow this softening and relaxing to spread on its own to the rest of the body. And just allow the body to settle into meditation in its own time. So this is a little bit maybe about what you were talking about, Urs, in the beginning. The body is going to settle in its own time. The mind will settle in its own time. So it's almost like we need to give ourselves some space depending on what's going on for us that day. So now amongst all these different bodily sensations, kind of focus in on the breath sensations. So you can notice the sensations around the nose, the nostrils, or the movement of your thoracic cavity, or the rising and falling of the abdomen. But just choose one to focus on for the time being. And just allow yourself to experience your breath sensations. So we'll focus on this for about 3 minutes. So rest your attention with your breath. And each time you notice yourself exhaling, use it as an opportunity to release, releasing anything unhelpful and unwanted. Imagine it's the same as this breathing out stale air from your lungs. Just unwanted things. Just exhale and release. And if you wish, you can just gently say or think the word release in your mind each time you notice an exhale. And this just reminds the body it doesn't need to hold on to unnecessary tightness and contraction. And it can also remind our mind that it can let go of thoughts and memory and fantasy that preoccupy it. And we love to ruminate and we love to make up stories. And it can also release states of dullness and drowsiness, just allowing them to flow away with the out-breath. And you're not forcing anything to happen or pushing things away. We're going to focus like this for another 5 minutes. Just using the guiding word release. So you know when you have a lot of anger towards a person, it's almost like you kind of generate an energetic connection. Maybe you don't want that connection. You still feel really angry with that person, or irritated by them, or have aversion. But you also don't want this energetic connection. Just release. Let them go. Stop worrying about them. Release the energetic connection. It's like little tendrils around your heart. If you notice your mind has traveled, or you're feeling drowsy, simply invite it to come back to the breath sensations. And release the distraction on the out breath. Everyone just relax. I just wanted to share this for Gabe. In fact, I can send this to, I might just make it look a little nicer, and I'll send it to Bay, and she can send it to you. So you can get an idea of what mindfulness is in our tradition, in this particular tradition. So
I might be a little bit misunderstanding too. Just like I've only read through the book
say
once.
again, Gabe, I can't hear you.
Oh, I've only read through the book once, so I might not fully understand.
Still can't hear you.
I've only read through the Recovery Dharma book once, so I might not be fully grasping everything. I might. I thought about it. I might be misspeaking a little bit. So.
Oh no, it's fine, because this is fairly specific. So so mindfulness is, we're looking at whatever it is we are noticing to come fully to our mind. In the Buddhist tradition, mindfulness is presented with these 4 characteristics. I mean, when you're fully awakened, you're aware of absolutely everything. Like Buddha is aware of everything, without also getting disturbed or distracted by everything that he's seeing. There you have some people in your life who are very visually aware. They notice absolutely everything. I have this friend in my life, the one I'm going to Maui with to run this retreat. She notices everything ahead of everybody else. So it's she's quite a visual person. So it's quite extraordinary watching that kind of mind. It's like how do you be aware of all of that and still be able to sort of stay focused? It's an interesting quality. Anyway, so there's these 4 characteristics. Without forgetfulness. So with mindfulness, our attention is able to engage with its object without forgetting it or losing sight of it. And then excuse me, then you depend on familiarity. So you're very familiar with an object. And then having not forgetting and being familiar helps to prevent distraction, your mind from wandering away. And with certainty, when you're mindful of an object, you fully attend to it and get to know with a sense of certainty. So you're not attending to something half-heartedly or absent-mindedly. So anyway, we have this natural quality of our mind. We already possess this ability to pay attention to what's happening in our life. So we're just kind of, we're not doing anything new here. We're basically just becoming aware of what it is we actually already know. So it's almost like you're just shining a light on this talent that we all have. Talent, I don't know, it's a skill, it's a quality. Everybody has it. And I think, when you if you're an artist and you go and do graphic design, your whole focus is on things like shape and color and what goes with what and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, so we do have this natural ability. So excuse me, I'm still recovering from this thing that I had. So we are going to have a bio break in about a few minutes, but I just wanted to see if anybody had anything they wanted to share from the Mary. Thank you.
I'm the talkative one. It was much easier to meditate after, relaxing the body a bit. But I noticed that I have this strong tendency to, when I'm breathing out, I'm like humming to myself. I'm like, So should I just, I'm afraid I'm gonna get into a bad habit because it's really pronounced. So should I just say release the hum? Or do you have any other suggestions or how I can?
Excuse me. Oh, excuse me.
You're muted. You're still muted.
How about now?
Okay, good.
Okay. So when you exhale, you hum?
Well, when I'm trying to meditate on my breath, I'm like thinking, You're like in, out, and I'm like humming to myself mentally, not
Oh,
visually.
mentally.
Yeah.
So in the
So
next meditation we do, can you try not doing that?
yeah, I'll try. And like I said, it was much easier to meditate after relaxing a bit. Like I find that I expect myself to just sit down and meditate, but you really kind of have to
Can't. I mean, we're
work
not
up to it.
in, yeah, we're not in the mountains in India where it's much more conducive, I think. Like, the pace of life is a lot slower in some places.
Hmm.
We are not in, I'm assuming everyone's here in the Bay Area except for Urs, who's in
I'm
Colorado.
in New York.
You're in oh, see, you can be with my Shantideva people.
Yes, I guess I go to Shanty.
Right. Yeah, all those people where it's a different pace of life, and you can tell from the things that they're saying on the screen. Yeah.
Okay, right.
But
Thanks.
you have a different pace of life to everybody, because when you step outside, I'm assuming you're in the city, so it's busy.
Yeah, I'm right in Manhattan on 3rd Street. It's a quiet. I like the winter because it's quieter. People are out on the streets yelling. But in the wintertime, in the summertime, in the summertime, in this, everybody's always out there yelling about one thing or something else.
This was
A noisy neighborhood.
this is what happened when I got to San Francisco. We were at Seichen Ling, our Dharma Center was at the corner of Oak and Webster, which is in the Lower Haight, which is not the best part of San Francisco. And there was, of course, in San Francisco, there's a lot of people living on the street. So there's this one couple. They were always high and they were always arguing with each other right outside our house. They were just yelling all night. And I was like, God, this is horrible. It's like a nightmare. I feel like I'm living in a Preta realm, something like. It was so noisy. I couldn't. It was really interesting. It was fascinating that people wanted to spend their nighttime yelling at each other. But anyway, that's what they did.
Hmm.
But so I know I can relate to that. And has the traffic got less since they brought in that reduced the charging people to come into Manhattan?
I can't say that I've noticed.
Oh God. Okay. People are just paying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they say on the news they say the traffic has gone down, but I
Doesn't.
haven't really been out there too much, so I can't, I don't drive around in the city, so I don't really notice.
Okay. All right. Anyway, thanks for sharing, Mary.
Okay,
So
thank you.
so I guess when you're rather than going, hmm, hmm, I mean, if you find it comforting, it might be a bit distracting for you though after a while. And maybe you can actually just as you inhale, instead of going on the exhale, you can just mentally think the word release. And if at the moment it's being accompanied by a mental hum, that's okay too. Don't worry about it. Eventually, it might just change to something else, but it's just what you're doing right now. So if you find it helpful, if it's not distracting and it's helpful, I think it's okay.
Actually, I had one other question, which is, what is there a distinction between mindfulness and calm abiding or shamatha, or is this mindfulness something that you have to learn in order to really focus on your object to achieve shamatha?
Well, you remember that image I showed you guys at the beginning? Shall I go back to that? See if I
Sorry if
can.
I'm asking a duplicate question.
No, no, no. I mean, calm abiding is this state of mind. Shamatha is a state of mind that happens after a very long period of focus and attention. So what we're doing with mindfulness is remember that image with the path went like that. I'll get it during the break and I'll show you guys. It's kind of mindfulness is right down. It's just like you're right. It's like a technique almost to focus the mind so you can achieve calm abiding.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I think in Vipassana, they call it anapana. It's just learning to concentrate. You're learning, and part of learning to concentrate is to be familiar with the object of focus, to be, to be familiar with it and to not forget it. So you're learning all these things. You don't want to forget. You don't want to forget that your focus of attention is breath. You want to be familiar with the breath. You want to be certain about it. So those kind of elements that, in that definition, they're all the things that you need to have in place. And then, over time, you start to develop calm abiding. It's a bit of a long process. I mean, some people might say this is calm abiding. I mean, some people actually do have courses called calm abiding, but actual achieving calm abiding is quite an advanced. Yeah. So with all these things, I just kind of go with the flow, and I'm like, okay, well, if I get there this lifetime, that's great. And we'll just see what happens. I'll just start step by step. And that's what I did with my psychology degree. I started with undergrad, and then I thought, well, if I keep going, then maybe I can do honors. Oh, then I did honors. And then the next thing was, oh, maybe I'll do masters. So I didn't kind of start with this huge goal in my mind, because I knew it would freak me out. So that's how I do my practice as well. I'm just like, well, I'll just see where I go. I'll start with this and I'll do that, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Otherwise, you put too much pressure on yourself. Okay, let's have a bio break for 5 minutes. So Bay, I think it's going to be 3:09 or something. We come back, but I'll see you guys in a minute or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I'm going to share this one instead. So remember this little diagram from the beginning of the class, right? So kind of down here is where we are with mindfulness. So this is a tanka print of samatha meditation, which is also the calm abiding. So on the tanka, the 9 progressive stages of mental development are shown. And then it starts with the 6 powers of study, contemplation, memory, comprehension, diligence, and perfection. And this burning flame shows the degree of effort required to develop both mindful collection and understanding. And so the flame gradually diminishes in each progressive stage. So the first stage is kind of where we are right now, the power of study. So we're like, this monk has got this holding a goad and a lasso, so like a hook and a lasso, and represent the clear understanding of mindful recollection. So remembering. And the elephant represents the mind and its black color, mental dullness, and the monkey is the distraction or mental agitation, and it's also black in color. And this stage is achieved through the power of study or hearing. The monk fixes his mind on the object of concentration, and he's depicted chasing the elephant with his lasso and hooked goad, and the monkey runs wildly, leading the elephant. And then we get to the power of concentration. Many people that's just where they end up, stage 2. So anyway, what I'm going to do, this is actually, these people are trying to sell this tanka, but they've done a very beautiful explanation of it. So I don't work for them, and I have not been paid by them to share this information with you, but I just, you can look up the stages of meditation, and there's many other different explanations out there. I'm just going to give you this one because I quite like the images that they've shown. And you'll probably find different explanations everywhere, but I think it's a really nice explanation. So let's get back to our course. And where are we now? We're going to go a little bit deeper into the mind. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to share? No? Okay. All right. Let me go back. So now just settle back into your comfortable seated posture. And I just want to talk a little bit about wisdom, developing wisdom, discerning wisdom. So I just also wanted to say, you know, that we have also this natural ability of wisdom. We are naturally wise, but we just have a bunch of dust on the mirror. You know, there's some people in your life, you know, they're just phenomenally wise, not necessarily practicing Buddhism. They just have this quality of being able to think clearly through things. They have a lot of wisdom. Wisdom also comes with experience. As we get older and we've made different mistakes on the way, we get a little bit wiser about things. When to speak, when to act, when to keep our mouth firmly shut. Wisdom. So all these practices we're doing, we are really just dusting our mirror. So wisdom in this context refers to the mental quality that's able to clearly discern maybe the virtuous aspects of the mind and maybe the not so virtuous aspects of the mind or of an object under examination. So while mindfulness helps us to hold our attention on that object and to facilitate investigation and analysis, we come to a conclusion about the object. Mindfulness familiarizes with that conclusion to deepen our understanding and knowledge of that object. So one of the reasons we have such a hard time putting aside our compulsive involuntary thoughts that disturb our body and our mind is because we're getting all caught up in the contents of the thoughts. And we take them to be the reality of the moment, even though we don't think we are. We are. So sometimes we, like, I think all of us do this thing as maybe we're nervous about something or anxious about something, or, you know, we're particularly angry at some situation or person. It's almost like we create stories in our mind around the whole situation that aren't even true. And then we kind of make up stories about it. And then we get an emotion about it. So, you know, we get confused and we come to believe that our thoughts about the past, for example, might be something that's happening right now. This actually happens with people with PTSD. Or we get lost in our thoughts about the future and react to it as if it's real. And we don't realize that our attention is already involved in this kind of thinking and is no longer in touch with reality, in touch with whatever is happening in the present moment. So for your own sake and for the sake of the people around you, we need to be present. If your mind is off somewhere else, the people that you're with are going to not get the impression that you're that interested in them. So with mindfulness and discerning wisdom, we can learn to differentiate between the different types of objects our mind engages in, such as sensations of the breath, hearing sounds, thinking in words and images. And I don't think we're really aware of the power of our own thoughts, especially the compulsive involuntary thoughts that we readily believe in without questioning, and then we follow through. As I've mentioned before, you know, one of the shows I like to watch on BritBox is a show called Vera. And every single Vera is a investigator. She investigates crime. She works for, I don't know, anyway, Northern England, what would you say? I don't know what's the equivalent here, CSI. And anyway, it always seemed to me that it turned out that every single time a person decided to murder another person, and it always turns out that it was a mistake or a misunderstanding, a huge misunderstanding. And it's always like, for me, it was like, oh no, if only they hadn't let their mind go there. So by training ourselves in the meditation on mindfulness of thoughts, we begin the process of recognizing when we're involved in thinking and learn to identify thinking as thinking and discerning thoughts as just thoughts to help us put the contents of those thoughts into perspective. So remember at the beginning, I talked about the problem is we get caught up in the contents of the thoughts. We get caught up in the story. It's like we're watching a movie about ourselves. We're just kind of completely in it. And developing this skill of mindfulness and discerning wisdom with regards to thoughts can go a long way to relieve us from the stress and distress brought on by our compulsive involuntary thoughts. It's a lot to think about. So here we're going to look at, in this meditation, we're going to look at giving mindful attention to the different kinds of thoughts arising during the meditation. So we're going to make use of our breath sensations as a support or an anchor for our attention. Particularly when we're getting distracted or find ourselves feeling dull and drowsy. So just bring your attention again and again back to the breath. You know, just think of your breath as your home base, point of reference, to help us discern our thoughts without getting caught up in them. And we can, you know, you can regard your breath as a friend. You know, we have a very, very intimate relationship with our breath. Our breath accompanies us on our mindfulness journey. It's there all the time. So in order to facilitate this process of discernment, we can start with making a note in our mind, such as thinking. I'm thinking. It just kind of gives us one step away from getting caught up in the content. So we become aware of thoughts that have arisen in the mind. So we can just keep going on, working on refining our awareness. And then we start to discern what the thoughts are about. So when we get a little bit more proficient in this process of recognizing thinking as thinking, we can refine our power of discernment by differentiating the different types of thinking our attention is involved in. We can replace the simple label of thinking with others that better reflect their content. So thoughts about the past could be noted as remembering. Or if you're planning something, like planning, just keep it really simple. And those involved in fantasies or made up things, daydreaming. And this way you can become more mindful, a little bit wiser in regards to the types of habitual thinking we tend to engage in. You're just developing an awareness of what's in the contents of your mind. So go back to your seated meditation posture if you're not already there. And allow your spine to be in its comfortable position. And rest your hands and arms on your physical support, like, excuse me, the arms of the chair. And allow your shoulders to just relax. And again, leave your eyes open, in slightly cracked open, allowing some light in a dristy gaze, unfocused gaze. Looking down the length of your nose to a spot about maybe 2 inches in front of you. Or keep your eyes closed. And then notice these areas of softness and ease and relaxation with comfortable feelings. And can you welcome these feelings and allow yourself to enjoy them while they're there? And notice any areas of tension or tightness with uncomfortable feelings. And can you simply acknowledge them for the time being? Don't feel that you need to change them immediately for the better. Just kind of let them be, if you can. And just go and check in the crown of the head. Just relax that. Relax your face. Just very gently relax the muscles around the forehead, the eyes, the nose, the cheeks, and the mouth and the jaw. And just let a different feeling of softness come into your face, comfort, ease. And just allow this softening and relaxing to spread on its own down to the rest of the body, helping your body to settle into meditation in its own time. Now focus on the sensations of the breath. So you choose whether it's the nostrils or the chest cavity, the thoracic cavity, or the belly. And just place your attention there for a few minutes on some of these breath sensations. And just notice the breath. Just stay focused on the breath for the time being. Your mind has started to travel. Just very gently bring it back to your breath. Now rest your attention here with the breath. And each time we notice ourselves exhaling, use this as an opportunity to release, releasing anything unhelpful or unwanted. In a similar way, we exhale, to let go of the stale air in our lungs. So let's just do that for a little bit. And just regard your breath as a resting place, a place you can always come back to at any time to steady yourself. It's your home base. So now your introspection may have started to alert you to the presence of thoughts. Maybe you've been already involved in some kind of thinking or some kind of story. And turn your mindful attention to those thoughts and recognize that you're actually engaged in thinking. You can make a mental note thinking to be clear about what you've discerned. And so here's where it's important, where you be curious about what's in the mind. Take a step back and look at it objectively. You can be curious and you can say to yourself, oh, there I am planning dinner. Here I am future tripping. Here I am locked in the past. There's an angry thought. That's a happy memory. And don't get overwhelmed by what you see. And like I said, you might end up seeing more there than you thought there was. So if that starts to happen, you just be very curious. It's like, wow, I'm so happy to see all this. I had no idea it was there. So let's just do this for another 5 minutes. Notice if any parts of your body are moving or twitching, like your feet or something, toes. And just try and instruct yourself to keep yourself still. Keep coming home to your breath. Okay, everybody, just relax. So, does anyone have anything they want to share from that? Yes, Mary. I love hearing from you.
Oh, good. Because I love chatting. So, yeah, it was very relaxing, and I noticed that my body physically feels heavier. So I think I have, relaxed my body, which helps to relax the mind.
I think in the beginning we did some meditation where you notice the weight of your body in your support. Yeah, that's great. Good to notice. How did you go with the thinking?
I definitely got lost in some trails of thought, and one time I was really lost contact with the breath object, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm on a whole daydream over here. I was all the way off on some trip, but
Oh, that is well
but that
done.
only happened once. Most of the time, I was able to immediately get back to the breath.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you noticed. So
Yeah.
when that happens in the meditation, don't be too hard on yourself, like drag yourself back immediately. You can just very gently bring your mind back to the breath.
Okay.
But very good noticing. Well done. Thanks for
Thanks.
sharing. Yeah, anyone else? Jacinda, you look like you're about to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah, I struggled again today with just feeling tired, like I really wanted to lay down. So, I mean, I did work a long shift. I mean, there's maybe some reasons, for that.
Maybe you are
Uh,
tired.
yeah, maybe I'm just, so and then I get real like, yeah, I just my feet want to kind of wiggle around or, so I don't know if there's any tips for that, but I feel like between kind of trying to just talk myself into staying upright, um, I was still able to like catch myself kind of floating off and come back too. But yeah, I don't know if I know before you said sometimes it's good to just go like, give into it, but yeah, I don't know if you have any.
When I was doing these 10-day Vipassana courses, one of my Burmese teachers, he was the older one, and I had some weird experience or something as we sometimes do when we're doing these Vipassana courses, and he just said, "Well, just lie down in the Gompa." And of course, I knew all the Westerners in that course would not approve of me lying down in the Gompa. So he said, or you can just go out and walk around. But they were all, the Vipassana crowd were quite strict with their meditation. So it was like almost like every time you moved, you were worried that you were disturbing someone. So not super comfortable. But the fact that he even offered that as a suggestion for me has stuck with me all these years. Like I was, this was like 30 years ago. So I'd like to offer that to people because one of my meditation teachers, and he was quite experienced, did offer that. So that is something that you can do, but I wouldn't get into the habit of it just because you can make, if you start doing a lot of your meditation practice lying down, your mind could get a little bit dull. So they do warn about that when you've done quite a bit of, when you start doing quite a bit of meditation and you're just allowing yourself to go into this spaced out sort of state, I think I read somewhere that it just kind of damages your intellect or something like that. You can get into this habit of making your mind dull. That really scared me. I was like, oh, no, no. But sometimes people like to really space out when they meditate and have all these good feelings. And that's just a byproduct of the actual meditation that just comes with it. But the point of the meditation is to focus what we're doing right now anyway. So what's your job? You said you do shift work.
Oh yeah, I'm in healthcare. I do ultrasound. So yeah,
Ah,
working 12-hour shifts right
right.
now. So it's a long, and then I had an
Mm.
overnight call. So I didn't get called back in, but I woke up like at 3 in the morning, like, did I miss the call or something?
Oh,
So
so you're on call when you're on call.
yeah, yeah, after the long shift. So yeah, that was it's not always like that, but last night that was a longer, or just kind of holding that responsibility, even though I didn't
I
get
know.
called back in. Yeah.
My father was a radiologist and he was often on call. And it was just it was something that the whole family was involved in because if Dad was on call that night, then,
Yeah.
he might have to get up and leave. And
Right.
yeah, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you
Mhm.
for being part of the healthcare workforce,
Oh
keeping us all healthy.
yeah.
Anybody else have anything they want to share? Well, there's only 3 people left who haven't shared anything. So, Gabe, do you want to say something?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
I've been kind of standing or upside down, something like that.
We can't hear you again.
I sort of like,
No, still cannot hear you. Yeah. No, we're still not hearing you. All right, we can leave it. You can talk next time. I don't know why that's happening. It was so clear before. Okay, never mind. Urs and Bay, do you have anything you'd like to share? And we might do our 9-round breathing. We'll wake everyone up.
It's more like a question. I mean, we have this instruction to notice thoughts, right? So, but at the end, do we want to suppress these thoughts, or do you want to just kind of be aware that they appear and let them go? I mean, what's the ultimate goal here?
I think suppressing your thoughts is really not the way to go. You know what happens when you try to suppress something. It's just gonna. But the thing is, with I think the instruction is always just to, once you're taking a step back from your thoughts, you're observing them objectively. You can allow the thoughts to arise and abide, and then for me, I find the trick is not to you allow the thoughts to arise. If you don't engage in the contents of the thoughts and you don't follow the story, what happens is it just atrophies. It just kind of goes poof, it disappears into space. It's almost like if you don't give it any attention, nothing happens. So as long as once you start engaging with the contents of your thinking, that's when it starts to kind of take on a bit of a life of its own. But it's almost like if you ignore it, it sort of goes away. But that's not the same as suppressing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like suppression has kind of this energy of like kind of bracing yourself against your thoughts, which is, I wouldn't suggest is very helpful. But not engaging with content, particularly when we know that content's not really helpful or is not even part of what we're doing right now. Like you're sitting there meditating and you've got some engineering problem going on in your mind. That it's not really the time and place for that. So you can maybe just say to yourself, okay, engineering thought, you go sit over there. I'll get back to you later. And that is also something you can say to yourself. If like all of a sudden something rises up in your mind that you feel it might need attention, it's like, oh gosh, I know about that memory. And you don't really want to go into that in the meditation session. You can just say to yourself, I'll just, or maybe even just write it down briefly. I'll come back to that later. And then it's just kind of like you've, you know, it's not taking up any real estate in your mind at that point. But we just have so much going on in the mind, and the more you start meditating, the more you're going to see. So don't worry about it too much. You have to remember, if you believe in this idea of reincarnation and the river being a river of mental moments and the mind being continuous, moment to moment thoughts, I mean, And how old are we? We're all like in our 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, except for Jacinda and Gabe, maybe. We've been alive a long time. So we got, and then, but even before that, like we came from I don't know where, but we've had eons and eons of thoughts, perhaps, I'd argue to say. So what I think is amazing is that I'm able to say, for example, look at my altar right here and discern color and shape without it getting all mixed up all together. Do you know what I mean? Like the brain is so clever with all the information that it's receiving that it can put things in order for us so we don't kind of get confused. So it's kind of fascinating. But our thoughts are, they can be problematic if we just give them free rein. And so we're not wanting to give them free rein, but we're also not wanting to suppress them either. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, yeah.
It
Yes.
basically like like just being able to direct your thoughts, or like, because
Yeah.
maybe so many things are kind of jumping in and you're like, oh, maybe I don't actually want to really focus on that or think about that right now. Let's look at this. So just decide. It's like making that choice, I guess, being more of a director of the choice of where your thoughts
Exactly.
are.
And Lama Yeshe would say, we do have the power. We're not
Mhm.
we're not being controlled by our own mind. It's our mind.
Mhm.
So we can grab a hold of that mind and basically, like you said, direct it. And so if you can learn to direct your mind in more positive ways, you're making more space for positive energy in your life and less space for negative energy in your life. And that sounds very simplistic, but I think this is kind of how, when we were doing our Lam Rim meditation on Monday, that was one of the chapters that Lama Yeshe was talking about, is making space in your mind for virtuous thoughts, giving yourself enough room for virtue and happiness and positive thoughts, and not, so when you don't focus on the negative, then it will atrophy. I mean, you can think of these neurological pathways as actual they're physical pathways in the brain, the neurological pathways, and they atrophy if you don't use them. So, when they talk about, you have to kind of, as you get older, you have to do certain activities to keep the brain kind of active and all the neurons kind of firing. And if you just sort of let all that go, everything just goes sheep. So I think you can do the same thing with all the negative thoughts. If you don't keep going down that road, all the grass is going to grow over and the neural pathways will atrophy. I don't know where the research is with that now. It was kind of, when I was doing psychology, it was something that was coming out that was quite new, but that was 20 or so years ago. But, I think if you can think of maybe the negative thoughts in the mind kind of gouging little rivulets in your brain or in your mind, and they're actually physical, I think we'd be a little bit more careful about what it was we were thinking. And also too, we don't see energy. We can't, some people can see energy, but we don't see energy. So the thoughts that we create that are negative, they impact our body, they impact our energy, they impact the people around us. So I saw this ridiculous thing on TikTok the other day, right? And this little baby was sitting in its, see some really silly stuff on TikTok. Anyway, this little baby was sitting in its high chair, and the mother had put on some music and was dancing. And the kid was just sitting there. And then after a while, it started to copy the mother. And you could see it started moving like this, then it started moving like this, and then it started smiling, and then it was just full on dancing. So it's kind of like it had picked up the energy of the mother and was kind of like moving with her. I guarantee if the mother had come in and started crying, the baby would have been a bit confused and a bit worried. And So, I mean, that's a kind of a fairly gross example, but the energy that we carry around inside ourselves impacts us and impacts the people around us as well. And we often think that we don't have any control over this, but we actually do, you know. And I think when it comes to things like anxiety and depression and not sleeping very well, if there's anything you can physically take to aid that, I don't think there's anything wrong with it if it helps you, gives you a little bit of space to be able to work on your mind, then I think it could be helpful. Anyway, oh, we've got like 4 minutes left. I wanted to do 9-round breathing. I don't think we have time. So I think this next week I'm going to be with my meditation, yoga, and Tai Chi Chi. Oh, I see that's what's happening. Gabe says he has a cheap phone and inexpensive Wi-Fi. Okay. I'll be on Hawaii next Saturday. So the Saturday after, we're going to do sessions 4 and 5, which is possible in 2 hours. So I'll try and make the meditations a little bit shorter, then you've got plenty of time to talk if you need to. So I wanted to suggest try and, you're going to try this, what we did today, in your meditation practice. And then think about other occasions in your daily life. So experiment with applying the note or the label of thinking to your thoughts. So say you're stuck in traffic and you're getting frustrated. That's an opportunity to think, oh, I'm thinking, something like that. And then observe what it feels like to be mindful of your thoughts versus being caught up in them. Being mindful of what you're thinking versus being caught up in the content of your thinking. Does that make sense? Mary, you're staring straight ahead. I don't know if you understand. Okay. Like you're looking at me like,
I lost attention for a second. So you're
oh,
supposed to be mindful of our thoughts.
Yeah, look at the difference between being mindful of your thoughts, being mindful of what you're thinking, versus being caught up in the contents of your thoughts. Like when you said, oh, I'd gone off on a great big daydream and I pulled myself back. So notice the difference between being focused and then being off in a daydream. So that is your homework for the next 2 weeks. So if you can practice that for even just 3 minutes a day, just the mindfulness meditation, and then as you're walking around during your day, notice when your mind starts to disappear, take off, and things like that, and then bring it back, and then maybe notice what you're actually thinking. So for example, when you wake up in the morning, you grab your phone and you start looking at your emails, you can say to yourself, what am I doing? What am I thinking? The center is not going to burn down if you don't look at your emails before 6 o'clock in the morning. It will still go on. It's been here for years. I know. All right. I want to just do some dedication prayers while we finish. Where are they? Okay. Share. All right. Here we go. O Jangchub Semchog Rinpoche Ma Ke Panam Ke Gyurchig Ke Panyam Parme Pari Gong Ne Gong Du Pelwar Shug Tong Ni Tawa Rinpoche Ma Ke Panam Ke Gyurchig Kye pa nyam parame parayi. Gong ne gong du pelwar shog. Kung ri ra wei kodawe jing kam dir. Pendang dewa ma lu zhong wei nei. Chen rei zing wan tenzin gyatso yi. Shape si te baradu ten yu chi. And then we have a strong wish for His Holiness to live long, for the swift return of our precious Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And then if you have teachers, just wish for them to have a long life. Okay. I wish you all a very happy and safe couple of weeks. I really look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks' time. What is that? The 15th
Yes.
February? Okay. And maybe, Bay, see if you can find Jose.
Yes, I will.
Bring him back. Bring him back.
I'll
All
send
right.
him.
Lots of
Yeah,
love. Thank you so much, everybody.
have a
Thank
wonderful trip in Hawaii.
Thank you so much. I just hope it's beneficial for the people that are coming.
Oh,
We have a
I'm
very
sure.
small, but I hope they enjoy it.
Mhm.
Anyway.
All
All
right,
right,
see
lots
you
of
in
love.
2 weeks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
everyone.
much.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.